So what happened was I was like literally driving down the road and I looked over at my heat gauge and it was pegged on the right side and I was like, oh shit, better pull over. And I pull over and there's like coolant everywhere and smoke. I'm like, not again. That's great.
Oh, I thought he just fixed it or something like that. And I said, yeah, he got an exhaust fix, but he said after he did that burnout, he said that his coolant cap like started like overspilling.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They have some and it's like right there.
Get in the zone. Auto zone.
What's up? Hi. I'm Jordan. I am the proud owner of a 2003 Mustang Cobra Terminator. I've had the car for over 10 years now. You might recognize me by the David Patterson review that blew up and convinced a lot of people to buy Cobras. I digress. In 2021, the internet has started to become very saturated with Cobra content. Lots of people are going and buying Cobras and modifying them. And I was thinking, what kind of video could I even do about a Cobra now that someone hasn't already made? And what I decided to do was make a video about my entire build process. So from the time that my high mileage Cobra started having issues and I was like, oh man, I need to rebuild the motor, all the way up until the end of the rebuild with the 2-3 Whipple in the cam. But before we get started with the video, check this out. Check it out. Look at it. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. You see it? I got terminated stickers. I'm wearing my terminated hoodie. I even got coffee cups. It's basically like the idea of terminated is like when you go and you ride in a Terminator and you're just like, wow, this is so torquey. It's so different than any experience in any other muscle car. I just came up with this word like terminated. I know it's kind of corny, but it's just the feeling that you get when you ride in a Terminator Cobra. These are pretty cool. It's got the car on the front and then the back of the hoodie has the car on the back. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. So far we found out that the intercooler pump is gone. It's not working anymore. It's leaking coolant again. I'm not sure from where. But it's leaking coolant again. And either the injectors or the computer is acting really weird and Steve is trying to figure out why. And so that's where we're at. So I know all of you guys want to see big numbers, but unfortunately we're just not there yet. There's a good bit of issues right now. For one, my intercooler pump is not working and there's a leak coming from the intercooler somewhere, a coolant leak that we just found. And also the injectors are acting really weird and the computer's acting really weird. So in September of 2019, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a big hurricane and Mustang Week did not happen in Myrtle Beach. We actually celebrated Mustang Week here in Concord, North Carolina. There were a couple people in Concord, Derek, Barron, and a couple other people kind of sponsored a little event. We all went to the little event. I did my first ever standing burnout. Now, I've done burnouts. I've had the Cobra for, at this point, like 8 years. I've done lots of burnouts, but like rolling burnouts. But I'd never done a standing burnout in a manual car, so I didn't know what I was doing. Embarrassed myself in front of everyone twice and failed. The third time I pulled off the burnout and held it for way too long and had the RPMs way too high because I had no idea what I was doing, but I was trying to get content for the people that have asked me to do burnouts for years. And my radiator just went crazy and blew coolant everywhere that day, and I was like, oh no, I've messed up my motor. And ever since that day in 2019, after that I started having issues. My car kept overheating and just having coolant spill out, and I would just be driving in traffic and it would just start, the gauge would start going up and start overheating, and I was like, oh, I've messed up my car. I did one standing burnout and I messed up my car. So I take the car to Schrader, who is my tuner at the time, still is my tuner to this day. He looks the car over, does some minor tuning updates. We find out that I have a vacuum leak. My intercooler pump is no longer working. I'm like half out of coolant. So Schrader goes ahead and retunes the car, fixes a couple of the problems that I have, but I have a lot of problems. So I have to find myself a new mechanic that's gonna work on my car for the next year or so, fix all of my problems, someone who's going to help me. So I stumble upon Blue Motorsports in Belmont, North Carolina. Take the car up there. They're really nice. They help me out. They start fixing problems one after the other. They fixed the coolant issue, the overheating issue. I had some issues with my brakes they fixed. There were just a lot of things with the Cobra that needed to be fixed. It's a high mileage car. You know, I drive it a lot, so just had a lot of issues. And after that point, I was just thinking, it's got 130,000 miles. This motor is a little bit hurt from all the overheating issues for the past 6 months. I think it's time to go ahead and either build the motor or replace the motor. This is a portion of what I'm about to put into the Cobra. Look at all that. This is what it costs to make content on your car. After we got the long block in the car, we didn't have a ton of issues. The only issue we had was before we put the long block in the car, I had some cam gears that I tried to put on, and we couldn't figure out how to get those to go on, so we just went with stock cam gears, which may have taken a little bit of power from me, I don't know. But this is where the video gets interesting. So getting the Cobra running with a new cammed motor, it sounded fantastic. But it felt very slow and sluggish, and it actually only made 440 wheel horsepower on the dyno with the ported Eaton long tube headers, 60-pound injectors, like full bolt-ons, cams. It only made 440, so I lost 90 wheel horsepower. The car before I had cams made 530, and it was really sad because it didn't just make 440, it actually felt a lot slower and less torquey, and I'm like, man, I just got a new motor and lost 90 horsepower. What turned out to be the case was I did a little bit of research and looked around and found out that there was an issue with my boost bypass valve. So apparently the boost bypass valve that Blue got and put on there had a factory issue. So they got it from a VNP, I believe it was. It apparently wasn't working correctly, which was causing me to lose a lot of boost. The car actually felt like it wasn't a ported Eaton, that it was like a blower running on stock boost. I noticed the boost gauge was like barely going up at all. So the boost bypass valve went ahead and got replaced, put a new one on there, and that made the car so much faster. Look at this. Here's with the boost bypass valve being bad. And then here's with it being replaced. Insane difference. But I noticed that there was still some sort of hesitation. You would hit first gear, go wah, bah, but it wasn't instant. It was like a hesitation. I'd be like wah, bah. So there was a hesitation going on even after the boost bypass valve was replaced, and I wasn't sure what that was. And then there was one time where at the top of a second the car just cut out and died, like wah, bah. And I was like, what is that? Took it back to Blue, we tested it, it turns out one of the fuel pumps was bad. So I was losing power not because I got cams, it was because my boost bypass valve was lacking, it wasn't doing, I believe, what it was supposed to be doing, and I had a bad fuel pump. That was why I was losing so much power. So at this point the car felt pretty good, and I was pretty happy with everything going on. But I still needed a new fuel pump, which basically meant just time to replace the fuel system, get a return stop fuel system, and do all that fun Cobra stuff. But to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed in how the car felt. Like I was thinking cams was gonna do more than it did. Unfortunately for 0304 Cobra guys, cams, it makes a difference, but it's not like cam swapping an LS car. It's not gonna make as big of a difference. So Blue was selling a 2.3 Whipple and an entire fuel system. It was like a triple fuel pump set, return style fuel system. What was it? New fuel rails, a couple other things. I ended up getting 80-pound injectors. So I just said, like, let's just do this. Let's get the tooth or Whipple. Let's get the new fuel system. Let's get rid of all of my problems and make some more power. Once we had the Whipple on the car, it just started breaking everything, and we just started having all kinds of issues. Hold on, un momento. I forgot a couple of things that happened at the Cobra before we put the Whipple on it. So number one, this was like, I don't remember the exact timeline, but like maybe a few months before the Whipple, in between the boost bypass and all that sort of stuff, I was cruising down Franklin and put it in did a second gear pull, and then at the end of second gear, it did not decel. And what had happened was, when the throttle cable was apparently put back on, it was put back on, and I guess apparently an interesting way, potentially, I'm not sure. But the throttle cable, like the reverse throttle cable, I don't know what you call that, the decel throttle cable came off. So at the top of second gear, it just stayed. Like, just imagine you're at 6K RPMs and it just stays there. So that was an easy fix. I just drilled like a little hole and put the throttle recoil cable in a way that it's not gonna come back out again. A few weeks after that, I was just cruising down Franklin, going like 45 miles per hour just down the boulevard. And Franklin is a main road for me in Gaston County, North Carolina, by the way. And the car just shuts off, and then I start smelling gas everywhere. And we're in the middle of the road, and I'm like freaking out, right? I'm freaking out. And what it ended up being was the fuel rail pressure sensor apparently hadn't been fully threaded back into the rail. Like the little, I think it's little Allen key bolts, they were very loose, to the point where I could just pull it out. So I threaded it back in. Those are two other things just worth noting that happened before I put the Whipple on. Not that big of, like, they weren't huge deals. They were things that could have caused me issues, but that didn't. So I just kind of got lucky there. But I put that in there because these are things like that happened leading up to me finishing the build on the Cobra. So the first day that I got the Cobra back with the Whipple, I drove it straight to the gas station to fill it up, and noticed once I got there, because someone who was pumping their gas beside me pointed it out, that my gas tank was leaking fuel. Like, my car was squirting fuel out of the back of the gas tank. There was a hole in my gas tank. There was a Whipple installed in my car, as well as an entire new fuel system. And there's something with this particular fuel system where I guess it's easy to accidentally potentially drill a hole in the gas tank. Like, it's something that allegedly can happen. So I called Blue and said, hey, Houston, we have a problem. So they said, just, get it back up here. So I had the car towed back to Blue. We had to find me another gas tank, and we did. About I think it was like a month later, so the car was down for about a month. Put the next gas tank in. So pretty much the second that I got the car back with the new fuel tank and there was no more fuel leaks, I took the car straight to Schrader Performance to get the car tuned. Only one thing that I needed was a bigger mass air meter, because I had like the stock mass air meter and the Mafia. So went ahead and got the BA 3000. Blue had one to sell me. It was like slightly used, but seemed like it was perfectly fine. So I took the car to Schrader, tuned it. It made 631 horsepower. Freaking awesome. I was so happy about that. Left Schrader Performance, went to Vitamin Shop, and got back out from Vitamin Shop, tried to start the car, and it would not start. And I'm like, what the heck, man? So we made 630 horsepower at the wheels. We made almost 600 foot-pounds of torque, which is insane. And there are no problems with the car. There are no problems. I am very, very happy right now. I am a very happy boy. Yeah. So that's all the idle that I'm getting. It's idling it like that. So I guess we're kind of, do we need to check for a vacuum leak? I don't know. We're thinking that it is the mass air meter, and I'm kind of hoping that it is, because if it's not, then I don't know what it is. I'll have to take it somewhere and troubleshoot again. I'm kind of ready to just drive it. I thought we were gonna be able to drive it, but hopefully that's what it is. We can drive it home. We can order another one of those,
and then we're good.
So I call Schrader and I'm like, hey man, my car's not starting, can you come help me out? So he comes down, looks at the car for a minute, and he thinks maybe there's an issue potentially with the BA 3000 that I just put on. And so what we do just to make sure I can get home after the tune is Schrader helps me put the stock mass air meter back on, which is going to make the car run like complete crap, and he just writes a tune to it, good enough to get me home. So I get home, and then, you know, I attempt to clean the BA 3000. Maybe it's dirty, I clean it, put it back on, still doesn't work with Schrader's tune for the BA 3000.
Yep.
Apparently, the BA 3000 potentially could have been bad that Blue sold me. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that they're selling bad parts, but it seemed like that part wasn't working. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. It just happened to not work. Maybe it went out after it was on my car. I don't know. It just didn't work. I don't want to point any fingers here. I don't want the video to be about that, but the point is, it didn't work. So I had to buy a new BA 3000. Put that on the car, and Schrader had to retune it. Just so you guys know, if you don't know this already, when you tune a car on a mass air meter that is not right or broken or breaking, it messes up a tune and you have to get a brand new tune. You have to retune the car. So a few days after the car's been retuned, I go to start the car and I hear this loud squealing noise and I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, oh my goodness. Is that the Whipple? What's going on? Like, why can't I catch a break? That was the snub idler pulley, and it was loose, had a little bit of play. I had the Steeda single bearing 90mm snub idler pulley. I just decided to replace the whole set. I was thinking, we've done all these things to the car. Let's just go ahead and replace all the pulleys with some really, really nice pulleys, and maybe that will just tie everything up nicely and we'll be good.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna slip.
No. So I take the car back to Blue and they point out that one of my idler pulleys, my snub idler pulley, is just bad. It needs to be replaced. So I was like, what the heck, let's just go ahead and replace all the pulleys. I'll let you guys put them on. So I go ahead and have Blue put on 4 new idler pulleys. Problem solved. So immediately I want to go out and do a pull in the car and see what happens. So I go out and I do a pull on the car. First, just straight to rev limiter because it's cold outside and the car just spins when it's cold. Into second gear, and I just like lose all my power and freak out for a second. And I pull over and find out that the alternator pulley is just apparently just de-threaded itself, or potentially, possibly, wasn't threaded in all the way and just backed itself out. I don't know for sure what happened. All I know is my alternator pulley came loose. It didn't come completely off. Like, I literally was able to reach down there and pull off the alternator pulley. So that whole little debacle with my alternator pulley basically snapped my serpentine belt, and I just decided to go ahead and get a new and improved alternator pulley. So I got a new alternator pulley, and I got myself a green belt, like the best belt you could possibly get. No more belt slip, no more any problems with belt stuff. I don't want to break any more belts. I've been through 2 belts at this point. So I put the green belt on the car and I'm like, time to actually have some fun. So at this point, I'm able to actually finally, with the Whipple, go and do like 3 or 4 pulls without anything happening. So I'm like super happy, right? This is towards Christmas of 2020. I'm like super happy, finally able to go and do a couple pulls. I think I got like 4 or 5 good pulls in, like first to second, third. And it's Christmas Day, I believe. I've got my mom with me and we're leaving my uncle's house, and I just decide, hey, it's Christmas Day. I want to do some pulls. So we do a first to second, or no, we do a second to third onto the interstate. And I'm like, oh yeah, going in second, and then third it goes, what? And I'm like, oh god, did the clutch just slip? And then I hear like, and then I hear cracking and things breaking off, and I'm like, what just happened?
Oh, what was that?
So I broke the Cobra again. Just look at it. Look at that. This is the tensioner pulley. Look at that. That is insane. So in that video clip that you just watched, you saw me doing a little second gear romp and then I shifted into third somewhat hard. And this little guy was just like bounce. And then this thing just bounced out and ping ponged around and ruined a lot of my other pulleys, my brand new other pulleys. So here is one of my Lightning Force Performance pulleys. Check it out. Check that out. That is fantastic. So it dented 3 of my idler pulleys and dented my crank pulley. So we pull over, right? And I see just carnage. I see that like all of my pulleys, my brand new Lightning Force idler pulleys are wrecked. I see that my crank pulley is wrecked, and I see that my tensioner is snapped in half and the pulley is just gone, probably on the road somewhere. And I'm like, what just happened? And so I'm just trying to diagnose the problem and figure out what the extent of the damage is. I take my car to a friend and we realized that the Whipple had given out. The snout on my 2-3 Whipple had given out. And I was a little bit frustrated because I just bought this Whipple not too long ago.
We can turn it over with no noise coming from the screws. So it's the problem right here.
So you says the isolator?
Yep.
Is that different from the coupler?
Well, isolator coupler.
Okay, so that's okay.
Yeah, because it's like a harmonic balancer where you have an isolator between the outside and the inside.
Oh.
Of it. So it's just a fluid dampener basically.
So the bearings and the blower are probably fine.
Yep.
That's good.
So I just learned about the coupler last night, and hopefully that's the only thing. It seems like the coupler just broke. Top of it is cracked, like right there at the top. You guys can see that.
How's the actual snout?
It's something's messed up in here too.
Okay.
So I bet that rebuild kit will fix your problem.
So here is my new snout. Got it from a friend of mine on Instagram. His name on Instagram is Optimus_wine. If you guys need a new snout for a 2.3 Whipple, I believe he rebuilds other stuff as well. But let me show you guys the coupler. So here is my coupler. It's pretty small. I mean, it's just, you know, it's a little coupler, carbon fiber coupler. I don't know for sure why the Whipple broke. It seems like the snout potentially could have just been weak on the Whipple. It was used. It just seems like I kept getting unlucky buying used parts. So it could have just been that it was weak. The snout was weak, but the snout on the Whipple broke. My tensioner, 4 pulleys, like 4 idler pulleys, as well as the crank. So for Christmas, I ended up spending over $1,000 to fix everything. Now, fortunately, not a lot of bad things have happened to the Cobra in 2021. This year, so far, in July, I got some BC Racing coilovers. Absolutely love them. They changed the car a lot. This thing actually hooks decently when it's not freezing cold, even with the Whipple. With these BC Racing coilovers, I can adjust them. I can make them stiffer or softer. I really love that. Unfortunately, September 7th of this year, my tensioner snapped again. And this time when my tensioner snapped, one of my pulleys broke off of the bridge, like broke off of the pulley bridge and broke the pulley bridge. Have you ever heard of an 034 Cobra owner breaking their pulley bridge? No, probably not, just this guy. So other than the pulley bridge and the tensioner breaking, that's the only bad thing that's happened to the Cobra this year. So I would consider the build pretty much done for now. That's my build story. I will say that I went ahead and replaced my stock tensioner with a freaking thumper tensioner because I'm tired of breaking tensioners. So I got a thumper tensioner. Obviously you can't like upgrade the pulley bridge, so I just got another factory pulley bridge. It's powder coated, so that's cool. But that's it. The car is done. It was a long journey. Last year was crazy. This year wasn't so bad. Yeah, that's my journey. There's a shop right beside my gym called J-Speed Tuning, and those guys have been working on my car this year. They did my BC Racing coilovers and a couple other things to my car. But before I conclude this video, I want to mention a couple things to you guys. I found out in around July that Alex SVT on YouTube bought a motor. Because he had issues with the motor that he was building, he bought another motor online for $4,500. And I found out that he bought the motor from Blue Motorsports here in Belmont, North Carolina. I live in Gastonia. Belmont's like right beside me. And I was like, oh man, I was a little nervous. You know, it's a used motor. Next thing you know, Alex posts another video saying that the motor that he just bought is bad, and all he did was start it take it down the road, didn't get any boost, nothing, and then turn it off, turn it back on, and it lost oil pressure. And I really felt bad for Alex. That really sucks. Let me just say that when you're buying used parts on the internet, that there's no guarantee those parts are gonna work. I mean, you hope they're gonna work. Sometimes they can go out a week later, a month later. Sometimes they work just like new. In Alex's situation, he bought a used motor because he needed a motor to run so that he could make content for you guys while he was waiting on his other motor to be built. And somehow or another, the motor ended up only running once, and then the second time he tried to start it, it didn't run. Who knows? Maybe something happened after Alex bought the motor. Now, I'm not telling you guys you shouldn't buy used parts. The moral to the story here is that sometimes you buy used parts and you get unlucky, and that's just the way it is. I got fairly unlucky, you know, possibly every used part that I bought and put on the car just happened to break right after I put it on, or possibly these parts were on their way out. Same thing with Alex. He bought a used motor, and he thought it was good. Maybe it was good and it went out right afterwards. Maybe it wasn't. We don't know. We can't say for sure. But the point is, if you're going to build a Cobra, just know these things. Just know what you're getting into before you get into it. You might get into it thinking you're going to spend $5,000, and then a bunch of crazy stuff happens, like what happened to me or what happened to Alex, and then $10,000 later, you can't afford to finish the build and you're depressed. So that's why I made this video. I'm making this video to hopefully help you guys that are looking to build a Cobra, and maybe you're on a budget just like me. But just be careful. If you're buying used parts, they may only work for a couple weeks. They may work forever. You never know. When you're buying used parts, you're taking a risk, not because the parts are used and they might break, but because they're used and you have no warranty. When you buy a new part and the new part breaks, you most likely will have a warranty from the company that sold you that part. When you're buying a used part from a performance company or a company that buys and sells performance parts, you are not warranted. So if something goes wrong, every single time it's going to fall on you. And that's what I learned. I'm not blaming anyone for this. I'm just saying this is the way it is. The last thing that I want to say is that this is just my experience as well as Alex's experience. I actually have a friend that bought a blower from the same company and had no issues whatsoever. So maybe me and Alex are just very unlucky, but I bought a lot of parts and I had issues with a lot of parts, and Alex bought a motor and the motor only turned on once. So that's just really unfortunate. So I'm telling you guys this story to make sure that you just know what you're getting into if you want to build your 03-04 Cobra, because I want you guys to know what you're getting into. I make these videos to help you guys. I'm sure Alex does the same thing. So that's it, guys. I didn't make this video to be mean or point fingers at anyone, just to say that it kind of is what it is, but I learned this lesson so I can teach it to you guys so that you guys can know what you're getting into before it. And you know, if you're buying a 2-3 Whipple or a used motor, it may work, it may not, and if it doesn't, it falls on you. All right, guys, that is going to conclude this video. If you found this video helpful or informative, please leave me a like. It helps me in the algorithm. YouTube's really shot my videos down lately. Like, I've gotten half the views that I normally get in the past couple months. Comment if you have any questions or concerns, or just you want to say hi, or maybe tell your own story down in the comments, because this video is all about helping people. That's it. This video is just about helping people. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. What are you doing? I make Mustang videos every single week. It's a bright light. I'll see you guys next video. Much love.